Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big Ten Under 10 on the Hoosier Network. I'm Adam Oppenheim. Of course, next to me is my guy, Graham Nash, and we hope you had a great Super Bowl Sunday. We have a packed slate today in men's sports, so let's begin with men's basketball. It was an upset-filled week in college basketball, and that trend continued in the Big Ten. But now the highest-ranked team in the Big Ten is number 7 Purdue. They had no trouble cruising through Iowa 90-81 and USC 90-72. You couldn't say the same, though, for 9th-ranked Michigan State as they dropped their second straight game in California, this time to UCLA, 63-61. They did, however, come back home and get a much-needed win over now unranked Oregon, 86-74. The number 18 Terrapins narrowly lost on the road to the Buckeyes, 73-70, but finished the week strong over the young bunch in Piscataway, 90-81. 21st ranked in the country, Wisconsin blitzed Indiana from the start and are out to a 76-64 victory. And then the Badgers did it on the defensive end, locking down Iowa in Iowa City, 74-63. The Illini have had a rough go of things recently, and that continued for now 23rd ranked Illinois as they lost to Rutgers 82-73. However, on the road, they dominated versus Minnesota, winning 95-74. Lastly, 24th ranked Michigan has been in close games every game the past 2 weeks, and that continued this past week. But it was 2 victories for the Wolverines, first winning at home against Oregon 80-76, and then on the road in Bloomington versus Indiana 70-67. Graham, I'll turn back to you. Are there any specific teams that really stand out to you that could separate themselves in the Big Ten?
I think right now it comes down to Purdue and Michigan State for me. The Boilermakers, they've got a little bit of a harder schedule than Michigan State coming down the stretch. So I think as far as win column goes, Michigan State has more likely of a chance to separate themselves that way. However, if we're talking about the importance of wins and the quality of wins, I think Purdue can get it done that way. They're just facing a little bit more of challenging opponents. The two actually face each other coming down the stretch, which is going to be fun. But I think that Purdue, they could be a little bit more impressive with the wins they do get. I think the hardest part for Michigan State will be they're going on the road to the West Coast, which that's proven to be tough for everyone so far, and the West Coast teams have had a tough time coming east. It's they're figuring things out. So I think that those two are probably my most likely. Michigan State had a little bit of a rough patch this past week, but I think that they have the best 2 chances.
Now, I want to ask you about a struggling Big Ten team, and that's the Illinois Fighting Illini. They're 4-5 in their last 9 Big Ten games. Are you worried about the direction of Brad Underwood's team?
I'm a little concerned. I wouldn't say I'm very concerned, but I'm not unconcerned. It's a weird spot. I'm not very concerned because 5 of the 9 games were on the road, and this late in the Big Ten season, it's tough to win anywhere, no matter where you're going. Right. So I'm not too concerned for that reason. The reason that there should be some concern, the reason that I'm kind of on the edge, is because they've got some really, really tough competition coming down the stretch. They're playing Michigan State, they're playing at Wisconsin, they're playing Duke, who was ranked 2nd. They just lost to Clemson on the road, so who knows what that ranking will look like in the coming weeks, and then against Purdue. So they've got some really tough competition coming down the stretch. That's the only reason for concern. But as far as the last 9 games go, 5 of them were on the road. I think that, they've got a young team. They've got some really good young talent. I'm not too concerned.
And another team that's struggling is Michigan State. They lost both games in California against USC and UCLA. They've had a little more smooth sailing, though, before that than the Illini. But do you have any concerns about Tom Izzo's team?
Not too bad. They lost by 6 to USC. They lost by 2 to UCLA. So it's not like they were blowouts. And again, they're on the road in the West Coast. It's tough going east to west. It's harder probably going west to east. We'll leave that alone. But no matter how you slice it, it's just hard to win on the road. And the fact that they didn't lose by double digits, it wasn't even that close to a blowout. They lost by 6 and 2. So I think Izzo, these happen. There's tough stretches. And coming down the stretch when you're one of the best teams and you know it, there's got to be some mental challenges going on for that team, just knowing what they want to do, what they're capable of doing. So I think that they're going to be fine.
Graham Nash, optimistic about the Spartans. We're now going to switch to the rink and get you some scores from the Big Ten in hockey. The biggest results in the Big Ten came from the state of Michigan. 2nd-ranked Michigan State and 13th-ranked Michigan battled it out in a 2-game set Friday and Saturday. The first game, Michigan pulled out a 2-1 win after scoring the game-winning goal with under a minute remaining. The second game wasn't so close as the Spartans won 6-1 over the Wolverines. It was easy money for 9th-ranked Ohio State as they took down Notre Dame 5-1 in both games. Lastly, 19th-ranked Wisconsin got upset at home in both games against unranked Penn State. First 2-0 and then 6-2. Let's move on to the mat. We go with wrestling. Still, the Big Ten has been the king so far this year, with 9 teams in the top 25 and 5 of those being in the top 10. Here are the scores from the past week. Number 1 Penn State blanked another team in Big Ten play. They won 39-0 over 19th-ranked Michigan. Number 3 Iowa held off 7th-ranked Nebraska in Iowa City 19-16. A top 10 matchup in Columbus saw the 4th-ranked Buckeyes losing to the 8th-ranked Minnesota Golden Gophers 20-17. They did bounce back over number 22 Indiana, however, 27-13. Number 8 Minnesota also won over unranked Purdue 35-6. 12th-ranked Rutgers took care of business on the road, winning over Maryland 21-20. Graham, we have a rare wrestling question here. Penn State is obviously the best team in the country right now, but who would you have at number 2, maybe in the country or in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think number 2 for me is Iowa. The Hawkeyes are phenomenal. It's always kind of been Penn State and Iowa over the years, and Penn State has done a phenomenal job of separating, but I think Iowa is the number 2. They lost to Penn State 30-8, which kind of just tells you how good Penn State has been.
Unbelievable.
But Iowa has some fantastic hitters, 8 wrestlers in the top 10, 5 in the top 5, and that includes Stephen Buchanan, who's the best in his weight class at 197. So they've got some really, really good talent. It's just Penn State is unbelievable. Iowa, they've beaten some really good teams. They beat number 4 OSU, number 9 Illinois, number 7 Nebraska, like you just said. So Iowa has the talent. They have the resume. Penn State's just so tough.
So Penn State's here, Iowa's here, and then the rest of the Big Ten.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. Lastly, we're going to finish on the court with men's tennis. The highest-ranked team in the Big Ten, 4th-ranked Ohio State, had a heck of a week. First, they beat 14th-ranked Texas A&M 4-2, and then they also defeated Baylor 4-1. 20th-ranked Michigan had a tough time on the road versus 6th-ranked Columbia, dropping the meet 4-1. Number 22 Michigan State narrowly lost on the road to unranked Boise State 4-3. That is going to wrap up today's show. Huge thanks to our producer, Colin Dusek, and teleprompter Henry Thuss for making all of this possible. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at B1G_under10. And check back in later this week for our next episode of Big Ten Under 10.